Nobody, and I mean nobody, thought the Indiana Fever were supposed to be here. A team missing 6 players, including their franchise star Caitlin Clark, was written off before the ball was even tipped. ESPN called it a mismatch. The odds makers laughed at the idea that this battered roster could even make it competitive. And yet, what happened in Game 4 was nothing short of historic. The Fever didn't just show up, they punched the Las Vegas Aces in the mouth and forced the 2-time defending champs into a winner-take-all Game 5. Think about that for a second. A 6th seed limping into the postseason with half a roster, staring down one of the most dominant teams the league has ever seen, and they didn't blink. They out-hustled, out-fought, and out-executed Las Vegas from start to finish. This wasn't luck. It wasn't a fluke. It was pure resilience. Indiana flipped the narrative on its head, sending Gainbridge Fieldhouse into absolute chaos as the final buzzer sounded. For the Aces, it was supposed to be the coronation. Instead, it turned into humiliation. For the Fever, it was the night they announced to the entire WNBA, "We're not here to survive, we're here to fight." If there's one player who embodies this Fever team's identity, it's Lexie Hull. On paper, her stat line doesn't scream superstar. 7 points, 7 rebounds, 4 steals. But if you watch the game, you know she was everywhere. Hull was supposed to be a non-factor. She'd already been body slammed by A'ja Wilson earlier in the series and was battling a sore back that had her questionable to even play. But when her team needed her most, she didn't back down. She chased down loose balls, threw herself into every defensive assignment, and hounded Jackie Young all night long. Every time Vegas thought they could bully Indiana, it was Lexie Hull who stood in their way. And the moment that summed it all up, when Wilson tried to muscle her to the ground again, Hull popped back up and kept fighting, refusing to be intimidated. That's the kind of toughness that doesn't show up on the box score, but it completely changes the game. Fans saw it, analysts saw it, and even the Aces felt it. Lexie Hull didn't just survive Game 4, where she set the tone for how Indiana was going to play. Physical, relentless, fearless, and by the end of the night, she was the one standing tall while Wilson was the one throwing a tantrum at the podium. Who really got humiliated? Let's talk about A'ja Wilson, because this is where the drama hits another level. On paper, she had a monster game, 31 points, but anyone who actually watched knows the truth. Every bucket she got was a battle. Aaliyah Boston made her work for everything. Nothing came easy, and when the final buzzer sounded, Wilson wasn't celebrating her stat line. She was melting down. At the post-game press conference, instead of owning the loss, Wilson went on about special whistles and tried to frame the game as some grand officiating conspiracy. Think about the irony. For 3 straight games, Vegas had been spoon-fed soft whistles, getting every benefit from the refs, while Boston and Mitchell were constantly in foul trouble. But the moment Indiana attacked the rim, earned 34 free throws, and actually got calls for once, suddenly it was unfair. Suddenly Wilson had to throw a tantrum in front of the cameras. That's not leadership. That's not MVP behavior. That's excuse making. And here's the kicker. It made her look weak. The same A'ja Wilson who bullied her way through the first 3 games, tossing Lexie Hull to the floor with no whistle, now crying about calls not going her way. That's why fans are calling it humiliation, because Wilson wasn't beaten by the refs. She was beaten by Boston's defense, by Indiana's toughness, and by a team that simply refused to quit. This game will be remembered as the night Aaliyah Boston officially arrived as the face of the WNBA's future. Her stat line, ridiculous. 24 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists. But those numbers don't even tell the full story. Boston dominated both ends of the floor. On defense, she clamped the reigning MVP, forcing Wilson into contested shot after contested shot. On offense, she punished the Aces in the paint, sealing defenders, finishing through contact, and drawing fouls at will. Fans inside Gainbridge were chanting MVP every time she stepped to the line. And honestly, it wasn't just hype. Boston looked like the most complete player on the floor. Analysts couldn't stop praising her. One even compared her presence to Tamika Catchings, the last time Indiana had a true cornerstone player who could control a playoff game like this. What stood out the most wasn't just the numbers, it was her composure. Every time Vegas tried to rattle her, Boston stayed calm. Every time they sent double teams, she found the open teammate. She didn't just outplay A'ja Wilson, she outclassed her. And when Wilson was throwing excuses around after the game, Boston was all smiles, crediting her teammates and simply saying, "We're not done yet." That's leadership, that's greatness, and that's why the Fever are one win away from the finals. If Boston was the anchor, then Kelsey Mitchell was the dagger. The longest tenured Fever player, Mitchell has carried this franchise through years of mediocrity, injuries, and rebuilds. And now, she's finally getting her moment. Against Vegas, Mitchell was unstoppable. She scored 25 points, hitting jumper after jumper, and when the game got tight, she was the one bearing free throws as the crowd erupted in MVP chants. Let's pause there. Kelsey Mitchell, a player overlooked for years, underappreciated by the league, standing in front of 17,000 screaming fans chanting MVP. That's vindication. That's years of hard work paying off. Her ability to create her own shot kept Indiana alive when Vegas tried to make runs. Her leadership steadied the team in crunch time, and her poise at the free throw line closed the door on the Aces. Without Mitchell, this doesn't happen. And the beauty of it, she's not a flashy star. She doesn't demand the spotlight. She just quietly goes about her business, delivering when it matters most. For Fever fans, seeing her finally get this recognition was emotional. For Vegas fans, it was devastating, because no matter how hard they tried, they simply couldn't stop Kelsey Mitchell. If there was one player whose Game 4 performance screamed redemption, it was Odyssey Sims. Let's not sugarcoat it. In Game 3, Sims was a disaster. She went 0 for 7 from the field, looked hesitant, and flat out admitted afterward that she let her team down. A lot of players would have hung their heads after that kind of showing, but not Sims. In Game 4, she came back like a woman possessed. 18 points, 6 of 9 shooting, and every bucket came with authority. She didn't just score, she attacked. She drove into the lane, sliced open Vegas's defense, and forced the Aces into rotations they couldn't keep up with. And when she stepped out beyond the arc and buried her lone three-pointer of the night, you could feel the entire arena lift. It was a statement shot, a dagger that told everyone watching, I'm back, and I'm not going anywhere. What made Sims's bounce back even more impressive was how it freed up Boston and Mitchell. With Sims forcing the defense to collapse on her drives, Boston had space to operate in the paint, and Mitchell had room to knock down open jumpers. That's what you call impact beyond the box score. Sims didn't just put up points, she changed the geometry of the game. And the best part, she did it with confidence. She said after the game that she didn't change her mindset, she just decided to be aggressive. That's the definition of resilience. Game 3 was a nightmare. Game 4 was a masterpiece. And if Indiana goes to the finals, fans will look back at Odyssey Sims' redemption arc as one of the biggest reasons why. Every championship caliber run needs a steady veteran presence. Someone who doesn't panic when the lights get bright. For Indiana, that presence is Sha Petty. Her numbers won't make headlines. 7 points, 2 steals, a couple of critical rebounds. But what she brought in Game 4 can't be measured on a stat sheet. Petty was the calm in the storm. Whenever Vegas tried to rattle the Fever, with full court pressure, with runs fueled by Wilson, or with Becky Hammon barking at the refs, Petty steadied the ship. She slowed down possessions, made the right reads, and reminded everyone on the floor to breathe. There's a reason coaches love having veterans like Petty. It's not about how many points they score. It's about the poise they bring when everything is on the line. And in a game this chaotic, Indiana needed that poise desperately. Petty gave it to them. She hit timely shots when the Fever's offense stalled. She played tough defense, getting into passing lanes and cutting off Vegas's rhythm. And more importantly, she never let the team lose composure. When you're a young squad missing stars like Caitlin Clark, you need someone who's been there before, who knows how to block out the noise and just play basketball. Petty filled that role perfectly. Fans might overlook her contribution, but players don't. Boston, Mitchell, Sims, Hull, they all played with freedom, knowing Petty was out there holding it together. In a game that could have unraveled, she was the glue, and in playoff basketball, glue wins championships. Here's where the excuses start. After the final buzzer, instead of owning up to being outplayed, the Las Vegas Aces pointed fingers at the officials. Aja Wilson complained about a special whistle for Boston. Becky Hammon sat at the podium, visibly irritated, and snapped, "They shot 34 free throws and we shot 11. Next question. No talk about execution. No acknowledgement of their own turnovers. No credit given to Indiana's hustle. Just blame. And let's be honest, it was embarrassing. Because here's the reality. For the first 3 games of the series, the Aces lived at the free throw line. Every bump on Wilson, every touch on Jackie Young, and the whistle would blow. Meanwhile, Boston and Mitchell were racking up fouls just for fighting for position. Vegas had been spoon-fed calls all series long, but in Game 4, the script flipped. Indiana attacked the rim. They fought deep seals in the paint. They drove with aggression. That's how you earn whistles. That's not favoritism. That's basketball. And yet, the moment the calls didn't go their way, the Aces cried foul. Literally. The funniest part? Even with the free throw disparity, the overall foul count in the series is basically even. It's just that Indiana finally forced the issue in Game 4, and Vegas didn't. Wilson settled for mid-range shots. The Aces floated around the perimeter. If you don't attack the basket, you don't get to the line. Simple math, but instead of facing that truth, the Aces blamed the refs. That's not the mentality of champions. That's the mentality of frontrunners who aren't used to being challenged. So let's strip away all the drama and look at what really happened in Game 4. Indiana executed, and Vegas didn't. It's that simple. The Fever protected possessions, diving on the floor for loose balls, chasing down rebounds, and refusing to give Vegas second chances. They stayed disciplined on defense, rotating quickly, contesting every shot, and forcing the Aces into uncomfortable looks. And when Vegas finally cracked under the pressure, Indiana pounced. Becky Hammon even made a shocking mistake, calling a timeout she didn't have. That's an automatic technical, giving Indiana an extra point and the ball. Those are the kinds of mental lapses that only happen when the pressure is overwhelming. But Indiana wasn't overwhelmed. They were poised. They knew exactly what they needed to do: attack the paint, move the ball, and trust each other. Boston fought for deep position. Mitchell created space with her jumper. Sims slashed inside. Hull played disruptive defense. Petty stabilized the tempo. Every piece of the puzzle fit together. Meanwhile, Vegas unraveled. Three starters ended the game with 5 fouls. Their offense got stagnant, their coach lost composure, and their MVP blamed the refs instead of looking in the mirror. Execution over excuses, that's the difference. Indiana played to win, Vegas played not to lose. And in the playoffs, that mindset decides everything. Now here we are, one game left. Winner goes to the finals, loser goes home. For Indiana, it's not just another playoff game, it's a chance to rewrite the franchise's history. 10 years since their last finals appearance. A decade of frustration, mediocrity, and rebuilding now hangs on 40 minutes of basketball. Think about how wild this is. When the Fever last made the finals in 2015, Caitlin Clark was still in high school. Aaliyah Boston wasn't even a household name. Kelsey Mitchell was just starting her college career. Now they're the ones carrying this team into the future. Vegas will come out desperate in Game 5, no doubt about it. Wilson will attack relentlessly, trying to bait Boston into foul trouble. Becky Hammon will feed her stars early and often. The Aces will throw everything at the Fever. But here's the thing, Indiana has already proven they can handle it. Boston knows how to anchor, Mitchell knows how to close, Hull knows how to fight, Sims knows how to bounce back, Petty knows how to steady the storm, and more than anything, they all believe. That's the word that defines this team, belief. When everyone else counted them out, they believed. When injuries piled up, they believed. When Vegas strutted in with their swagger, Indiana punched back and believed. Whether they make the finals or not, one thing is already clear. This isn't the same old Fever. This is a team that thrives on doubt, feeds on pressure, and just shifted the balance of power in the WNBA.